we were strong in the morning yesterday, and then, as is usually the case almost every day, something comes out of Trumplandia, and the market paid attention. In this case, it was all the business leaders he had on multiple advisory panels / commissions started resigning en masse because of everything that happened over the weekend in Charlottesville. And so just manufacturing got disbanded, his strategic advisory council got disbanded. So the market probably views that as tax cuts and other pro-business things are less likely to happen. And so we sold off. But like every other sell-off recently on those sorts of items, it's a buy. Question is, how much you sell if you're going to get. In this case, you went from 247.5 down to 246.5. People bought $1 down. Now it's 50 cents. This morning, we are actually at the prior day's morning and afternoon support of 246.25. So 246.25 is a good level. We gapped up here a few days ago, held in the afternoon, held it the entire day, following day, now holding it here at the pre-market. So from a risk reward standpoint, from here to 247.5 is pretty nice amount of size, even just to move back up to close to 247. So I can look to trade that on the long side. IWM. I don't remember yesterday morning. I think we said 138. Well, I don't remember actually, but we had 139. Obviously, was the big place where we had gapped down from. We wanted to be short into that. And remember, I also said into 138.50, but we never got there. So we failed at 30 cents. Got back below 38. We're down at 37 this morning. We could make a higher low here than the 36 low from last week. Here. So strong downtrend for the last couple of weeks. Gonna watch here, see if we make a higher low, start moving sideways, maybe for a few days. Maybe we'll get a breakout of a consolidation after a pretty decent downtrend here. You see us below 137 though again. You start to think about a retest to last week's low. All right, Baba. So Baba had earnings, really good earnings. I forgot to put in the chat and also forgot for myself to buy the 170 calls going into yesterday. So that's a shame because it was trading above 170 pre-market, could have shorted some against that. But from a bigger picture perspective, this is why I'm talking about the calls. And it's in a very strong uptrend. I think last gap up above 150, we started talking about upside to 170 to 180, maybe even 190. So now we're already at 170. It's getting pretty close, I think, to the near-term, medium-term upside. If we're going to look at it from an intraday perspective, and like all these momentum names, like all of these momentum names, there's usually a short trade to be made on these large gap ups. You can see it pretty clearly, I think, on the 5-minute. So the natural thing to do is to look for a pop to 170 to see if it fails there. You get a pullback maybe to the mid 160s. In this case, 168 was initial pop. It pulled back $2. It was very methodical. Took out the 68, went to 70, and then went to 72. Reversed from 72, held below 70 here, and now it's trying to hold below 68. So maybe we can see that a little bit better on the 2-minute. I guess let's say it's 68.50. And here's the top 171, came into 167, 166. I'm not banking on anything below 166, 165. So it's already been a 166 on the pre-market. This is $6 from the pre-market high, 172. See 165.70 here. So, being short from this 170 to 172 area for move down to this pullback low right here, that makes sense to me. We could also see this thing work its way back up to 170 to 172. We'll look to try to make $2 on each trade, or at least have some of the position for $2. That's makes it a good risk reward. It's hard to risk less than 30 cents in BABA. Sometimes you'll risk even 50 cents to $1. Right on the open, maybe even a little bit more if it really flushes down into here. As good as the numbers are now for the last couple of quarters, and as strong as it is and as strong as the uptrend, it's shown the ability to go down multiple times. Perhaps maybe it's a Chinese name, not US based, but it tested that 150. Even the most recent thing a few days ago, it took out that 149 support area and flushed all the way down to 147.80 before running back up to 160 again. So these are pretty sizable pullbacks here, $5 to $10. So it gives you opportunity on the short side from an intraday perspective, even multi-day. Longer term though, it's absolutely still a long. It's just getting extended away from its trend now. Walmart, it's amazing how much this thing has run up. So here's the daily. They did one of the greatest things in the last couple of years when they had their analyst day and they lowered guidance. It was this day here. I remember trying to buy into that, into $62, into $60. It went all the way down to the high 50s, bottomed a few days later, and it's been strong ever since because they reset expectations. And this run recently up to $80 in the mid 60s, I thought was pretty sizable run. I could definitely see it pulling back some more because the numbers were not great. Okay. The only thing that stood out to me was the 65% year-over-year growth on their online, their e-commerce. I don't know why they didn't get aggressive in that 10, 15 years ago, but now they're all in. Now that Amazon is bigger than them. So people could hang their hat on that. I'm inclined to think that the larger run-up recently would lead me more towards being on the short side. So it doesn't come off that much. It's only a buck and change below $80 here. If it came down to like below 78, like 77.80, and then maybe even kind of filled this area here to this breakout from $77, that's when I'd start to think more about playing it for a bounce. This area down here. If it pops up on the open closer to $80, I would short it. So here was the initial news. It tried to actually, I guess it popped up a little bit here to 80.50. And then once it got below 80, we talked about this yesterday, I think in the morning meeting, it got below 80, can trade it against the whole number. It held here and then trended down $1.50, which is a lot for Walmart. But be prepared for either direction. I know I talked about a flush into the 77, so look for a bounce, but clearly it's being bought here in the pre-market at 78.5. So I'm not going to be completely stubborn about that. That's 3 times it got bought here. Pretty good volume. It's traded about 500,000 shares so far. If on the open it flushes below that 78.5 and then starts to hold it, I'll try to play for a bounce there. It's fine. Cisco. So Cisco is going to be the least risky name we talk about. It's extremely liquid. Cisco is another one that was pretty in line. Here's the daily. So for a long time, it was kind of stuck in the mid-20s. Then it broke out here about a year ago. above $30, came back down and tested, had some good numbers. Last quarter, I guess they gapped it down below 32 and it hasn't moved since. This is incredible, the tightness of this range. So this morning it's down 31.50. That's 31.68. So looking at it the last couple of weeks, it looks like 31.30. Let's say 31.30, 31 and a quarter. That's a spot where you'd be interested in buying. And they did buy here in the pre-market, and it was a buy here, and it was a buy here, and it was a buy here. So people are like kind of looking at the last few weeks. Their bids are putting in the same spot. I think you can get below 30 cents there. So it pops a little bit, and the reaction's down. After hours yesterday at 31.50. They try to bounce it. It can't get back to 32. So let's use this as a spot to sell and short. And let's use 31.50 and potentially 31.35 or lower as two spots to look at it on the long side. And again, extremely liquid, but don't overtrade it. Don't be like, you buy it and you hit it a penny lower. Give it a little bit of wiggle room. Because you're going to try to make 30 cents on it or so, unless it starts to trend magically, but it seems unlikely. So LB, just a mess. Here's the daily. It's in a huge downtrend. They already warned and gapped down back in last month. Let's see, it tried to bounce from this 43 area. A couple times it got back above 45. And then boom, again, resumed the downtrend, made new lows. I guess people were anticipating more warnings. The warning wasn't that bad. It was a few percent. So if we look at it, it was mid-50s, and now it's mid-30s. Almost a 40% move from there. That's a bounce candidate. Just on a pretty small guide down this time. So let's see what it did so far. So it bottomed out. It couldn't quite get to 35 in the after hours when they warned. Got to 35.60. It bounced to 30. So it bounced $2 there. And now it's in the process of looking like it's trying to put in a higher low around 36. The news guy just said President Trump at it once again. So I guess he's tweeting something. Maybe he'll do the honorable thing at some point and commit Japanese ritual suicide. So I'm going to look to see if it holds higher here, it bounces here. Ideally, what you'd see is something like it holds here, it bounces into the 37 area, and you get a nice consolidation with a strong bid at 37, and you get a breakthrough that is 37.50, and you ride it up 38.5, 39, something like that. And again, just on the idea that this guide down was pretty minor, but we had a gap down from the high 50s to 50 a month ago, traded into the low 40s. So it's kind of an expectations game at this point. But the backdrop is obviously in the retail space, and this is like landmines and things blowing up left and right of us every other day. So there, those four names. There's potentially some pretty good opportunity between the four of those. Make sure you get your price alerts in at the levels we're looking at and checking in with them regularly. I think it's setting up to be potentially quite a good day with the names that are in play there. In terms of yesterday, the two names we have here for second day plays, I thought both did a nice job in opportunity, offered us money. Target, the idea was numbers were really good and hadn't run up that much recently, to play it for a bounce. It did overshoot to the downside, maybe because it's just retail and people, when they get a gap up in retail, like to sell. But it did get bought. Unfortunately, again, I was off the desk very early, so my position got scaled out of, I think, into this area right here. I wasn't around for the next dollar, but it was pretty clean. Clearly was being bought here at 54.5. Then it finally started to consolidate above 55, which was your next clue right there. And then you got a clean break to the upside. And you pretty much didn't have a reason to get flatted. Really the rest of the day. You could have held it the rest of the day. So looking at it now, it held right around 56. It was accumulated here after the kind of the bounce. I guess if it got below 55.80 and started to hold below that, I would sell it. I did think potentially it could get back to 57. So if you get a little flush right on the open and then it gets back above 56 and then you see it above 56 and a quarter, I'd be playing it for the move back up into here, or at least into yesterday's high, 56.70. The other one was Urban, which right on the open put in its high. And we just talked about the idea that it just was up too much. Not that things weren't good for it, but it had already bounced. So the low was 16 there. It was bouncing above 20. Even though technically the next major resistance was until 22, where it broke down here back in May. It's a big move for Urban. $17 stock was being accumulated in the 17s for over a month, 2 months. People are going to be motivated to sell at 20. They popped it an extra $1 in the open and then they sold it. Take a look at it. I actually thought it held up pretty well considering how much it was up. So here was the high right in the open. It quickly came off $1 and made the lower high at 21. And then got sold the rest of the day. It did try to bounce here to 21 a few times, even got above it at almost at 2 o'clock. But it held this gap, so we'll see. I would have 20 alerts to see if it fails there again. If it starts to hold above it, you could play it on the long side. I'm inclined to think that it'll come in and test this 19 at a minimum before it bounces, and then you'd have to see from 19 what happens. DGLT. DGLT is halted, so don't really have a lot of thoughts on that. It's another one of those low price stocks that's manipulated. I'm sure there'll be some people in there. I'm sure Shark Swang, if you watch in real time, will be trading it. Dangerous stocks if you're not experienced.
Hope you enjoyed that video. You can actually watch that video if you're subscribed to our Trader 90 before the market even opens. What stocks are in play, what levels in those stocks are important, and how we might go about attacking that stock. That's Steve Spencer, 20-year veteran trader, laying it out there every morning before the market even opens. A really, really powerful tool to start your session off on the right foot. So right now we're offering a trial that you can take advantage of to access this meeting and other meetings throughout the day. We have a meeting at 11 a.m. Eastern where you can sit down with Mike Bellafiore and listen to him talk about what's going on during the morning session, what stocks were in play, what the best trade opportunities were, as well as maybe some things that we're looking at heading into the afternoon session. So I really encourage you to take advantage of that trial.